Buenos dias, Lesser Mamway. Magandang umaga po. Good morning. The House Standing Committee on Gaming calls this meeting to order at 9:43 a.m. Thank you to those in attendance this morning and those online who are watching this meeting today. I just want to remind everyone in the chamber to please, if you do have your phones, to keep them on silent or vibrate. And I apologize. I know it's a bit warm in here. We are having some air conditioning problems, and I want to thank our director and LB staff for adding some fans. We'll do our best. So again, I do apologize if it's a little uncomfortable. Um, at this time, I would like to recognize our members, and to my right is Vice Chairwoman Rep. Tina Sablon. To my far right is Representative Camacho. We also have with us our fiscal analyst, Mr. TG Rabago. Thank you for joining us. We also have our legislative assistant today, Mr. Cameron Nicholas. Thank you. And also our councils. We have Mr. Brendan Lade and also Joe Tyrone. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask if we could move to adopt today's agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Adoption of agenda has been approved. At this time, I'd like to move toward public comments. You are welcome to speak at the podium. I ask that you state your name for the record and that you please keep your comments to within 5 minutes. We can begin now. Please proceed to the podium if you'd like to make public comments at this time.
Okay, got it. Good morning, members of the committee and to the public. My name is, can I take this off? Yes. My name is Vincent Semano Don, and I used to be the facility manager for Imperial Pacific International. I was in charge of all the engineering department, right? And my duties as the facility manager was to take care, maintain, repair, try to figure out everything that's going wrong or about to go wrong with the building. All right. And during my time as the facility manager for Imperial Pacific International, I've never once witnessed any uh, building inspections for construction, during my time. And it is very troubling that I was never a witness to that. And the reason why I say that, because as the facility manager, at the end of the day, I am ultimately responsible for that building and everything that goes on in it, especially with the water, the power, the sewer, and all the electronics and whatnot. So with that being said, I've always tried to figure out is the reports, where are the reports pertaining to the construction of IPI. And no matter where I look and who I talk to, nobody seems to have that report. And I don't see why that report should be confidential or secret, for somebody like me that works there that is going to be responsible at the end of the day. So that's one of the things that really caught me off guard. I've never met a special inspector, to conduct inspections while working at IPI. I've never met with Public Works Building Inspection Division while working at IPI. And for every job or for every closeout that has to be done on a building, it has to be inspected. And I'm one of those people that has to sign off on it. because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm going to be ultimately responsible because once the job is completed, I have to take over. I have to figure out, are the blueprints built in accordance with, or drawn in accordance with, and did the construction company, build it in accordance with the blueprint, and while I was tracing systems and whatnot to try to figure out did they build it the right way, 9 times out of 10, it wasn't. And then when I asked for a revised drawing or as-built drawings, it's never there. So we always end up having to revert to the original drawing, figure out what went wrong, what was not installed properly, and everything like that. And we had to redraw the plans ourselves, And we do submit to the construction company the building or the drawings that we did, the revised drawing, as-built drawings that we, and my crew had to go out and trace and, redraw. But we never get the updated versions. So there's a lot of things that's wrong with that building. And I really would like to see that DPAC report. To this day, I would still like to see it, because I still remember IPI, working there like it was yesterday. I still can find myself around that building with blindfolded, right? And as we speak, I can pretty much tell you that the basement, yes, it's flooding. And anybody that can tell me that I'm wrong, please, let's go take a look. Because I can tell you I am right, and I know I'm right. Right? The walls are falling apart. You got mold growing on carpets. Right? Why? Because the building is not properly maintained. Is it habitable? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it. So if we're talking about mold growing and everything like that, you could take the court as an example. It had to be shut down. Millions of dollars had to be spent. Why? Just because the AC was growing mold. So that building right now, it ain't just the ACs that are growing mold. Everywhere mold is growing. So I would really love to see a certified, third-party inspector to go into that building and inspect it and make a report, an independent report that will be available to the public. Right? So on another note, I would like to talk about the issue that we have with Saipan Vegas. Now I understand that taxing is necessary, right? And any taxation without representation is practically theft, right? If you're taxing me and I don't know about it, and you didn't tell me about it, you know what I mean? And you're taking my hard-earned dollars, to me, that is theft, right? So before we tax anybody or anything, you should let the public know, right? The other thing is, tax is necessary. We really do need the tax, right? But at what cost, right? Everyone must pay their fair share of taxes. Rightfully so. Why would I have to pay for somebody else's, benefit and I'm not going to get the same? It wouldn't be fair, right? So in order for the government to raise revenue, first, you must look at your books. Figure out where you can cut. Raising taxes is the last thing you want to do because you're not just, hurting, the public, you're hurting businesses. So before you start taxing, you better let the public know, all right? So if you're going to raise revenue, best thing you do is to try to invite investors, right? Not chase them away. There's a lot of bureaucratic red tape, that is unnecessary. A lot of fees here and a lot of fees there. Fees are getting raised up, and they're not making it any easier for the public or any investor to come in and try to build a business. Because that is the only way that a government gets their money is by taxes, raising fees. But if we, as business owners, that are struggling, have to keep paying exorbitant amount of, fees and paying taxes, sooner or later I'm just going to close shop, and I'm going to put myself in a nap program and, just sit there and collect money. So raising taxes, yeah. The government has to understand that the funds that you create or the funds that you collect has to be expended in a rightful way. And if you don't keep your expenses under control, you know what I mean, we end up suffering. And then when we end up suffering and close shop, guess what? You're not going to be able to collect your taxes. So do not chop, or do not bite the hand that feeds you. The government is not an employment agency, right? You are there to serve us, not us to serve you, right? And just going out there and just taking money without having representation is not, I don't agree with that at all. On the other note, e-gaming, I would love to know who these new investors are. You know what I mean? Because I would not want to get caught with my pants down again with what happened to IPI. I would love to know who these investors are, where they got their numbers from, and did they really read the federal regulations regarding e-gaming? And I would like to know how the CCC expect to regulate, e-gaming when they couldn't even regulate, IPI or Dynasty. How is the finance department going to collect taxes when they couldn't even, collect from IPI or Dynasty? I mean, I'm not an economist, I'm not a banking major or whatnot, but what I do know is that Uncle Sam doesn't like his money to be played with. So before any money comes in, he's going to want to know, where did that money come from? Who did it come from? How did they make it to bring it in? And we would also like to know what goes out, how much goes out, why is it going out? So I would really like to know, who these mysterious investors are, because I'm not really comfortable in trying to invite another gaming industry into our community when we had problems trying to figure out what's going on with the last time. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I mean, please just be careful, and don't bite the hand that feeds you. If we have to end up closing shop because you're charging us, our arm and a leg, it wouldn't be beneficial for us business communities to try to, continue to do business. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the gallery that would like to make public comments? Before that, I do apologize. I want to also recognize that our members, Rep. Patrick San Nicolas and Rep. Richard Lizama, are hereby excused for today. We also have Rep. Selena Roberto Babalta, who is on her way, who is dealing with an emergency, but she should be here shortly, but the meeting will continue. I also just want to say that this is our first gaming committee meeting since the passing of our brother and colleague and fellow gaming committee member, Rep. Ivan Blanco. We miss him deeply. We know he's here with us always in spirit, and we continue to pray for his wife Carmen and family. I just wanted to note that for the record. Thank you. Let's continue, please, with public comments. If there are none, we will proceed. Let's move on to old business at this point. For old business, we have the oversight hearing on the governance, financial suitability, and compliance failures affecting Imperial Pacific International. My dear colleagues, I want to state for the record that we have received documents from Mr. James Chua, former DPAC consultant, through our subpoena duces tecum. However, much of it was redacted, which was quite frustrating. And it was not, from my understanding, redacted by him, but by the governor's legal counsel, Gil Burnbridge. And at this point, I would like to request, colleagues, that we issue a subpoena for Mr. James Chua to testify on DPAC records that were submitted to the committee. So moved. I'm sorry. Sorry. I take that back. Sorry, recognizing Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually wanted to amend your motion, but I will offer the motion to issue a subpoena for Mr. Chua to testify on the DPAC records that were submitted to this committee, but with the caveat, I guess, that it will be subject to the discretion of the chair, depending on the availability of the chamber and the schedules of the members. And so the date of his appearance will be decided at a later time. I so move.
Do we hear a second? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We will prepare that subpoena with our councils and have it ready at a proper date. At this point, I'd like to recognize Rep. Selena Babalta, our gaming committee member. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for being late today.
No worries. Thank you.
Had to deal with a family emergency.
Thank you. I hope all is well. All right. Moving on to new business. In the discussion of House Bill 22-47, we have members, you have seen a copy of the presentation by our Commonwealth Casino Commission Executive Director, Andrew Yeom. I believe he's here today. Is he? Yes. At this point, we would like to invite Mr. Yeom and his team to join us, please. Yeah. Sarge, thank you. Yeah, you can put it up. Yeah. Director, thank you. We do have your presentation in case you want to refer to it. Again, I thank you for joining us. If you would like to make a brief statement and introduce your team today. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Andrew Yum. I'm the CCC Executive Director. Sitting next to me, we have Ian Morrill, IT Manager, and also I have Leonard Leon, who's the Compliance Division Manager. I'm here today because you called me. I just want to set this record straight. In a sense that there's some public comments I hear and I also see. I just want to make it clear that I have expressed pros and cons of this particular bill. I was not an advocate of this bill. I was just trying to lay out the facts out there. As you know, I've given you my comments, all the concerns and clarifications that the bill needs, and I sent you that back in July 29. All my comments are there, including the mentioning of the concerns of the Wire Acts and whatnot. That's all there. So I have expressed a lot of concerns and then also clarifications that needs to be made for this bill to be passed. It needs to be amended and it needs to address many issues, and that I've already made that comments to you. Also, when I did my revenue projection, that's a potential, maximum potential that if everything can be worked out or mitigated, it is a strictly to educate my commissioners upon their request. They wanted to know what kind of business is this, and what kind of potential does it have if all goes well. And under that circumstance, there's no known data out there for CNMI, so this is something that I had to exclude. Our team had to do a lot of research, one from Vegas, one and through online gaming experience. Oh, by the way, I want to let you know that online gambling is part of an online gaming. There's like a mix and match with how people understand online gaming. It includes different genres, right? You got MMORPGs. Think about World of Warcraft. You got sports games, sports genres. Online gambling is just another genre of the online gaming. So for that understanding, we just wanted to make sure that people understand what we're talking about. So that's how my projection has come about. Not knowing, not having a lot of data available, but we've done a lot of research to the best of our ability to kind of come up with a thesis that to back up with research data that's been given. So combining all that together with the with my online gaming experience as an executive executive of the online gaming companies in Korea, I was able to come up with something that we can say, okay, this is something that we can visualize. It doesn't mean it's a correct figure. There's no guarantee we'll hit that figure. It's just that if everything works out well, if everything can be mitigated, perhaps that is the maximum potential. It's not a guarantee, but it is a potential that we can reach, and that's where I just want to kind of let you know where everything started, and that's where we are. And if there's anything you want to know, I'm here to address any questions.
Thank you, Director, and I appreciate your candor and for always making yourself available for meeting with us. Before I do move forward with some of the slides and open this up to my colleagues for questions, I just wanted to ensure that you do understand why this gaming committee is moving so cautiously with an abundance of caution with regard to this internet gaming bill. I know you're aware of that, but I want to state for the record that our viewing audience and everyone needs to understand why we're not moving expeditiously and passing this so quickly. This particular bill that for internet gaming, there's several red flags that have been raised, and I'm sure our vice chair and colleagues will bring them up. But I think we just need to look no further than our own history with regard to that. I can tell you we were promised a $7 billion industry with the casino, with IPI. And fast forward today, the CCC is in need of, I think, $1 million to continue to operate. And at this point, we know that IPI has its license suspended. They are not in operation. I know this is not part of it, but Director, from our last meeting with the former council, Mike Ernest, you did express, as did the council, that you guys were actively working on revoking IPI's license for all their failures and all their empty promises. Again, they don't even have enough money to ensure that the CCC can continue to operate. So we do, again, move forward with an abundance of caution with regard to this internet gaming. At this point, I'd like to open it up to my colleagues, and if anyone would like to make comments or questions. I recognize Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Director Yom and Mr. Morel and Mr. Leon. Thank you for being here. My first question has to do with I guess, the underlying assumptions in the projections that you provided to the commission and to the members of this committee. Could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, you did mention that the data for CNMI is limited, of course, but what were the underlying assumptions and benchmarks that drove your projections?
So there are several data sites that we went to. First, we'll take a look at the overall, what is the size of the market, and what is the CAGR, what is the growth, annual growth rate, compounded annual growth rate. We started there to see if there's any there's any potential if the industry is growing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Yom. Could you just speak into the mic? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, all right. So to make a long story short, we had several. We visited several sites, key sites that we took a look at, and then we kind of started out with how big is this thing in terms of the market size, in terms of casino players, online, offline, altogether, and that based on the casino.org, it says that we're talking about 4.2 billion people gamble globally offline. We started off from the figure that is on the research. It's not it's not a hypothetical number that I came up with, but that's what they said. And also on the same research site, it also tells that 5% from Asia gamble online off of these 4.2 billion people that actually gamble offline. So those are the data that we get. So we saw, okay, we could go somewhere from here. And so I'm thinking, okay, if there's a 5%, and that's that we're talking about Asia gamble that online. We're not even including China figure, because they're kind of untrackable. So they left out China altogether. So this is the rest of the Asia we're talking about, and that they, based on the statistics, they're saying 5% Asia gamble online. And I'm saying, okay, off of that 5%, if we can grab 1% of that 5% market, 5% Asia gamble online market, then that's perhaps that's something we could take a look at and see what kind of figures can we come up with that kind of a hypothesis. So and based on statistical studies that visits Las Vegas visitors, they're also saying an estimate of 40% of overall visitors, actually 40 to 60% of overall visitors are likely to gamble online. So these are the figures out there based on the research.
So your projections, the part of your presentation that referred to offshore gamblers,
Yes.
That presumes that gamblers who are based in other countries will be able to place bets online within the CNMI.
Either they're physically here, but they're all tourists, right? They could be physically here to gamble online, or will also, if it could be possible, for those from the countries that have legalized online gaming, such as say Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore. These are the kind of places that have legalized online gaming in their own respective country. So as long as they're not illegal in their own country, so to say, if they're able to join, and I'm not talking about Wire Act and all that.
Well, so I'm getting to that.
I'm sure we're going to get there soon.
I'm getting to that, but I guess
Right.
what I'm trying to understand is, do your projections assume that gamblers in countries where online gambling is legal will be able to legally place bets
if they are able
in the
to.
CNMI,
Yes.
even with the Federal Wire Act?
Now, that, like I said, if the next page, right? I gave you in my PT, there are two different projections, right?
Thank you.
Next page. So those are the next page, please. So it's kind of interesting to note that in places like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, especially New Jersey, in the midst of the pandemic, when their brick and mortar casinos were completely shut down, they were able to generate just $81 million in just June to 2020 alone. So the revenue potential there was huge. And
those are bets placed within those state boundaries.
within the states,
Right.
in New Jersey.
So-
but we'll get to that. That's not always just that. But we'll get to that point a little bit later because that all ties together with the Wire Act that you concerned about. So we'll get there. All right. So for now, those are the numbers. Those are the factual numbers that are there. Those are the results. I'm not speaking of any hypothetical numbers there. Those are the facts. Go to the next page, please. So the revenue potential, like I mentioned, there are two ways to look at the offshore possibility or just within domestic market. So I've given you the breakdown of the offshore possibility. That is a from the 4.2 billion to the 5% Asian market to the 1% hypothetically speaking for bound for Saipan. Then you get down to 2.1 million possible users, potential users that are available from worldwide. Next page, please.
And that's assuming 340,000 visitors.
The 340,000 visitors, that really counts for the domestic market, right? Because we're talking about 340,000 visitors, ages 18 or older. These are qualified people who can actually play, legally gamble if you choose to. And those are the meaningful data that we gather from MVA. We're talking about the figures that we got for 2019 fiscal year, pre-pandemic period, if it ever go back to the normal period. So that's the number we got, and that'll be the number to be applied in the domestic market projection. So keep that in mind. Go to the next page, please.
And I'm sorry, what percentage of those 340,000 visitors do your projections assume will actually be placing online bets?
So that'll be 40%.
40% of those visitors.
Of that, yes. So
Okay.
that's basically what I found in statistical,
I
online.
see.
So those are the assumptions. But then again, assumptions can be wrong, right?
Mhm.
But those are the hypotheticals that I can only gather from the research that I've done. I cannot just come up with some number that arbitrarily. So that's basically what happened. So go to the next page, please. So this is the offshore forecast. So basically, we go, if you look at all the way to the right, calendar year 2022, we're going to start out slow, going all the way to 2.1 million. That's the 2025, all the way to the left. That's where we reach the potential 100% population, that 2.1 million that I talked about in terms of the offshore. And from that 2.1 million, we're talking about 40%, and that brings you to 840,000. And when we say ARPU, that means average rate per user. These are the users that actually, pay, right? You can gamble free, but until that, those are just the users, but there are paid users. That's called PU, and the average spending of that will become ARPU. That's the industry term, and that based on the data that we have, the $535 per year. This is per year, not per month.
Mhm.
So that is the average spending that online paid users will be spending in a year.
see.
In Macau, it's well over 1,300. So it's kind of ranges from anywhere between 200-300 to 1,000, 1,300, whatnot. And
Okay.
we'll say 535 for the 2025 year.
Okay, and can I ask, did your projections also consider whether Saipan or any of the municipalities or senatorial districts have the bandwidth to accommodate online gaming?
The bandwidth is I cannot speak for ITNE, but the bandwidth there is just that how the bill is drafted into splitting into different jurisdiction per senatorial districts.
Mm-hmm.
That I tend to think that's going to have a little difficulty, especially
Right. The
dividing
Casino Commission has consulted with ITNE and Docomo before.
with yes.
And the answer was that we did not have
It could
the
be
capacity.
done, but it'd be costly.
Sure.
To divide the line between the TINI and Saipan.
And the numbers that you provided to the commission didn't take into account those costs.
These numbers, well, obviously, that's got nothing to do with the cost of the infrastructure.
Right.
We're talking about strictly from the revenue potential. So we're not accounting for any expenses there, right? And especially that's not when it comes to IT infrastructure. That is our problem. It's not the business problem of the publisher, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, and I guess my last couple of questions. I know I'm out of time. I want to know if you did any, as you may have seen, for one, MDA's 10-year tourism recovery plan does not even see gaming in its future, in the CNMI's future. It doesn't even contemplate that, from what we understand. And two, as you may have seen in the headlines, today we're looking at 600 tourists max for the month. So I'm wondering, do you have any projections that take into account these near-term, real-life, practical figures for what we can reasonably anticipate would be coming to the CNMI in terms of tourism arrivals? And what do those projections look like for online gaming if the entire market is made up solely of CNMI residents, 53,000 people?
Well, if you go to the next page, okay, so that's the domestic market you're talking about. And I'm saying for us to reach that 340,000 number, we're talking about 2025. So we're right now we're in 2021. So that gives us about 4 years to go before we even get there. And I think that
right, but 2022 projects visitors of 85,000.
Starts at 25% of what it can be.
But we're looking at 600 visitors max next month. So you're assuming that there will be more visitors coming
in 2022.
In 2022.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't do anything about 2021. Obviously,
Okay.
there's nothing to be done in 2021. So hopefully, I cannot project. I don't speak for MBA or whatnot, but I'm hoping, and it's kind of reasonable to think that things could be back to normal, kind of like pre-pandemic normal, whatever you want to call it. But by 2025, I'm hoping that things can be back to somewhat normal to reach back to what was before a pre-pandemic period when we were talking about 340,000 folks
Sure. We all
arriving.
hope for that. And my last question, Mr. Chairman, and I will yield. Mr. Yom, we have received fairly credible information, I'd say, that the CNMI has been added to China's blacklist, and that if we were to legalize online gaming, that we would be permanently blacklisted for Chinese tourism arrivals. Have your discussions or presentations to the Casino Commission also considered the potential permanent revenue losses of being permanently blacklisted from the China market?
If you were to guard China, to number one, to begin with, they will not be allowed to join from China because they're illegal to begin with. So by way of geolocation devices, a mechanism, we will not allow from China to access our site and play the game.
I understand that. I'm talking about just Chinese tourists, the loss of Chinese tourism altogether.
I mean, I don't know what this black lists. I haven't seen one. But
I don't think anybody
it's
has.
certainly not going to be by online gaming because we're going to limit their access from China. So for China to say because of the online gaming, it's going to be blacklisted, that's kind of unheard of.
But that's assuming that we'd have the technological capacity, right? The infrastructure in place to prevent
the
online gambling.
That'll be part of the regulation that I'll promulgate if it's passed the law. So we'll make sure that gets into play. We'll make sure that we'll limit the access from China.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's hypothetical speaking. If the law is passed, right?
Right. But there are some pretty big assumptions though that go into
that's what's happening in the world. That's what's happening in Vegas and New Jersey and in terms of the forecast, I think we've done enough. I guess we'll move on to the next subject because it seems like every discussion we're heading heading in that direction where how the federal laws can be mitigated, right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what it comes down to for the success of this potential industry.
Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Before I open it up to our members, if I may, with no objections, I'd like to ask a few questions. Is that okay, members? Thank you. First, Director,
yes, sir.
Are you aware of a previous survey that was done by MVA in their top 10 lists of things to do or why they're coming to the CNMI, that gambling was not even in their top 10 list?
I guess so. I mean, I can't say yes or
Yeah.
no. I mean, I don't speak for MVA.
Thank
If that's what it is, then that's what it is.
And generally speaking, when we do see the ads from MVA going out to Korea and other markets, are they advertising casino gambling, or are they focusing on our beaches and beautiful beaches and sand and the ocean and other attractions?
Those for to Koreans now, as of now, the CNMI is not known for a casino destination. That's uh, that's it's fair to say that. But
Thank you. And the reason why I ask this is that the likelihood of attracting tourists to come here to our island to do online gaming um, is difficult for me to believe that that would happen. It's possible, but just based on surveys, based on other trends, I hope to be proven wrong. But that seems highly unlikely that they would come to a destination like this and stay and do online gaming. But if if the Federal Wire Act does not apply, if they can, in fact, go around, circumvent the Federal Wire Act, and open up the market, have gaming online. You can through the Commonwealth, right? Through other destinations, through Asia, through other places around the world. My question is, of all the places around the entire world, why? Why would they choose the CNMI? And I ask this because I just tried to order yesterday uh, parts for my old Weber grill. You know what place wasn't on that list? The CNMI. Guess what? Samoa was on it, Palau, every Guam, every other place. CNMI, never heard of it. Had a long conversation with them. I'm sorry, we weren't aware of the Northern Mariana Islands. What I'm saying is the marketing for such a small Commonwealth to become a big player in this market. What is the likelihood of that? What marketing would that entail? And also, we need to think of what it would cost, as we had mentioned previously, the discussion that we had, that if we were to move with internet gaming, you stated yourself that you would have to obviously really increase uh, your the number of employees that you have. That is that not correct?
yes, I would have to. I would have to have proper staffing. That means I would have to have some more increase. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to increase so much to start with, but eventually, as the industry grows, you will need more staffing. That's kind of proportionate to how it grows, right? So we could kind of start with what we got and grow from there. There's a lot of work to be done. A ton of research to be done, but that's what it is going to take.
Thank you.
But we can start basically from what we have now.
And that is my concern from a fiscally conservative point of view, is that we are going to invest in all these employees, and if it doesn't pan out, then what have we spent? We've seen again, not just in this industry but other industries. Perfect example: the Cannabis Commission. We were promised $1 billion industry. Somebody was smoking some serious cannabis when that was put out, that figure. But nonetheless, that was what was projected, that we will be making tons and tons of money on the cannabis industry. And lo and behold, we're not even making enough to pay for the salaries of the commissioners, who make more than double our salaries here for meeting a couple of times a month. So I'm just saying, from a fiscal conservative point of view, we're looking at revenue generating bills, but at the same token, we must move cautiously when it comes to investing in something like this. So I do apologize, but these are concerns that have not just been raised by us, but from our constituents that have brought it up with us. At this point, I'd like to open it up to other members. Sorry. Recognize Rep. Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning and welcome, Mr. Yom and your team. Welcome back. This presentation looks good on paper. The figures definitely, but as the chairman alluded to, I have a difficult time believing it. Perhaps maybe it could be more relevant to the CNMI's population base and all that. So, as far as I'm concerned, these figures do not apply, and I have a hard time believing it. But suppose that we realize figures, as beautiful as this presentation, what type of mechanism will be used? Can you just explain or a little bit about that? What kind of mechanism will be used to capture the CNMI funds or share of these online gaming? Is it 100% or is there any?
I'm not sure what you're getting at. Well, what do you mean mechanism?
Well, are there any tools to how much can we realistically realize from 40% of domestic gambling, online gambling?
Are you talking about
Based on-
what is in store for
Yes,
cinema
exactly.
government?
Yes.
So you got the GGR, gross gaming revenue. Based on that, there, it all depends on, obviously there's a BGR to assess,
Mhm.
right? And also if you decide to introduce any type of license fee together with any gaming tax, those are things that we need to consider. It's basically what the company makes, what the business makes is and what are we going to tax on that? What is the percentage that we decide to do? That's something the government has to decide. I cannot decide for you. That's up to you. So basically, what is available in the form of gross revenue, that's the pool of revenue that you could pull from, and then based on that, you make a decision. That's how the taxing is going to be done. Certainly, it's not going to be me.
We're trying to make decisions based on realistic, as close to a realistic figure, and that's why we simply can't rely on something like this. Population wise, it's not what the CNMI has. So obviously there's some
The population of the CNMI.
there will be big
is not even there.
discrepancies in terms of numbers.
I haven't even included the CNMI residents. This is basically based on the visitor numbers. If you read it carefully, and that's exactly what I said. So whether you believe the number or not, that's up to you. I mean, I like I said, I cannot guarantee these numbers either. These are potential numbers. It could be met. It could be totally wrong, and
Understood.
I can't say I cannot guarantee these numbers, but these are the kind of visualization of what it can be. That's basically it. So don't think that this is how it's going to be or what it's going to be exactly.
I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Rep Camacho, please.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome back, Mr. Yum, and everybody else in the gallery. Welcome. Mr. Yum, I have a question for you. Do you know anybody who already is operating e-gaming?
We're not talking about e-gaming as in e-gaming, right? We're talking about internet gambling.
Internet gambling, pardon me.
Yes.
Because you know what, the last time you were here, you said you're not an operator. You said you're a
Correct.
regulator.
Correct.
So wouldn't you think it's a lot clearer if you brought somebody in who is already running the business? So it'd be more clear other than you. I mean, you sound like an operator. They do. That's what I'm getting. So there is a big difference between operating and regulating. What you're showing us here, wow, it's pretty. But you're not talking like a regulator. You're talking like an operator, and it's all over the place. I do too. The first thing that came to my head was CNMI projections. That should have been the first one you addressed. Don't you think so? But you're all over the place like the chart is. Don't try to confuse us. First, we fix the projections for CNMI. How do we know? I mean, you're talking about 18 and older, and like Rep Babata said, what tools are you going to use? Have we even established that before we even start talking about projections? So I believe that, to continue forward with this conversation, you should bring in somebody who is already running the industry, so we'll be more clear. Thank you, Rep. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. Director, I do appreciate you and your team for coming in today. Obviously, there are a lot of concerns and questions we do have with regard to the figures and also with regard to, um, again, getting around the Federal Wire Act and so many other questions that we still have, not just this gaming committee, but several within the community that have raised these questions. We need to find these answers as we move forward, and I hope we can to continue to work together on this. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to go into too long, take up too much of your time. But since we're talking about the Wire Act, number one, that's exactly my concern before coming over here when I talked to you, Chairman, that I didn't want to be here to talk about this thing because that's exactly what the question, what the portray the image of myself. I'm a regulator. I shouldn't have to be acting like or talking like an operator. But Chairman insisted for me to come over here and that to at least share my knowledge what it is out there, and I'm just trying to give you that. If that's not my place for me to be, then please don't call me here to say so. That's exactly what you asked me to do, to share my knowledge in terms of the gaming space and what it can be in the online gaming for online gambling for CNMI. And then for the knowledge that I have, I'm just trying to share as much as I can so that you can make those decisions whether it's positive or negative. That's up to you. But I'm here to give you the information. So now here we go. On the Wire Act that you're so concerned about, if you don't mind me talking about the Wire Act, because that's the one simple thing that's going to actually be a detriment to the industry. If it's ever going to happen, that's the one that's going to be killer, and we all know that. And I've already addressed that in my concern to you. If you asked me that question a couple of years ago, I would have said dead on arrival. That's not going to happen. If you asked me that, let's say 6 months ago, I will still be very leery of the Wire Act. Is still gonna, it'll kill. I don't think we'll have a chance to survive at all. But with the latest things that are developing in the world, especially in America, because the Wire Act applies in America, right? And that's something I kind of want to share the update with you in terms of the sequence of events that occurred or surrounding Wire Act and what happened and where we are and where so that you can envision what can happen in the now and later. So. I'm going to try to be brief. September 2011, DOJ released its original opinion that interstate transmission of wire communication do not relate to a sporting event or contest, fall outside of reach of the Wire Act.
Thank you. If I may interrupt, I apologize, Director. I do apologize. We have been briefed on on those opinions and also what is ongoing right now, and that. I hope we can save that for another discussion. And I do apologize because of our time frame. We do have a conference committee in the afternoon. We cannot continue to the afternoon as I would like to have done. But we do have another item on our agenda. Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
State your privilege.
I do appreciate Mr. Yom wanting to share this information. It looks like you have it in writing, and I'd like to ask that you provide that to this body and we could review it at a later time. And I also want to just say our objective as policymakers, as regulators, as a community should not be to bypass or circumvent or get around the Federal Wire Act, right? I mean, and I hope that would not be the message or the takeaway that anybody gets from today's proceeding. I appreciate, I think all of us appreciate you coming here, Mr. Yom, to share this information, share what you know. We obviously have questions about these projections, in part because they made huge headlines about millions and millions of dollars that were going to come to the CNMI. And I think that there was a lot of public misconception about the reality and the assumptions underlying those numbers. So thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And before I recognize you, I do want to say it again that this conversation will continue as we continue to work together, and that you do submit that to us, to this body. If you could briefly wrap up your comments, Director, so that we could move forward to our next item on the agenda, please. Go ahead.
I know I don't want to take up too much of your time, but before I leave, I just want to just let you know the latest of the Wire Act, because that matters, right? And basically, um, June 21, 2020, there was an end of deadline for an appeal from the DOJ on this Wire Act when they appealed from the New Hampshire case that basically says Wire Act only applies to sports betting, not online gambling, and that has been appealed, and the appeal decision was. Again, the decision was made in June. January 2021, saying that it only applies to sports betting, and they had 150 days to appeal. And under the Biden administration, coming out to say discouraging that course of action, meaning the appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. They had the 150-day window that expired on June 21, 2021. That passed without having the DOJ filing for a complaint, filing for appeal. Therefore, the case is closed, meaning the Wire Act does not apply in terms of online gambling. It only applies to sports betting. That's the latest on the judgment of the call. So that's where it stands, and that's
In
where
that circuit, right?
Yeah, well,
In that circuit, not in the.
that has been appealed, and that the appeal decision was made, and that DOJ had a 150-day window to appeal, and Biden said, I would discourage such course of action, and DOJ did not take any action, and they let the time pass, and as of June 21, the time frame has passed, therefore the case is closed. That's where the latest on the Wire Act stands.
Thank you for that. And again, just for the record, that is in the First Circuit, correct?
That is on the First Circuit, yes.
Okay, and we are in the Ninth Circuit, correct?
Well, that's for anything to be appealed, they had the 150-day window. And I'm not a lawyer,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that's the fact. And we have a Joe Biden administration
Thank you.
discouraging any appeal.
Thank you.
So,
And I appreciate, and then if you could again, if we could get copies of that so that we could discuss it at a further date when we are not so limited in time. But Director, thank you again to you and your team for coming in today. We look forward to discussing this more thoroughly in our next meeting, perhaps at the CCC. Thank you again.
thank you.
You're dismissed. Thank you. Members, at this point in time, if we may continue because of our time, is everybody okay, members? Can we proceed forward? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Director, once again.
Sir,
I appreciate your time, sir.
Anytime.
Okay, at this point, we would like to discuss the electronic gaming license fees on our agenda. This is a hearing with MP Holdings LLC and Mariana Entertainment LLC regarding Saipan Local Law 22-6, House Miscellaneous Communications 2256 and 2260, and other related matters. At this point, I'd like if we could dissolve, short recess real quick. Sorry, one moment. At this point, I'd like to invite the representatives for e-gaming that are wishing to testify today to come up to the front. Sarge, if you may escort those who are wishing to testify today in this hearing. I, I guess it's just one person that will be representing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin and ask the formal questions, at this time, I would like to ask if our legal counsel would be so willing to have you swear under oath to testify for today's proceedings.
Do you solemnly swear, under penalty of perjury, that the testimony you will give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Oh, just press that. Yes, just press it for, thank you. All right. All right, at this point, before we begin, I want to thank you for coming in today. I want to thank everyone in the gallery also for attending today's hearing. And before I open it up for questions, are there any opening comments before we begin? Would you like to make a statement before we begin, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Please state your name, if you don't mind, and begin with your statement. Thank you.
Yes. My name is Bart Jackson. I'm the general manager of MP Holdings. Hafaday Intiro, Chairman Probst, and committee members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the Gaming Committee regarding the impact of Saipan Local Law 22-6 on our e-gaming business. I have lived in the Marianas for the past 31 years. Over that time, I've worked for Pacific Islands Club, DFS, Bridge Capital, MP Holdings. I'm a twice elected member of originally MVB, now MVA. In its current form, Saipan local law will force us to close our doors. 70 plus individuals will be losing their jobs and millions of dollars will be lost to the CNMI treasury. My goal today is to share the financial dynamics of our industry and provide some understanding of how our businesses work. We want to help you make the most informed decisions. MP Holdings LLC first entered the e-gaming industry in 2016 with the purchase of Club 88. In 2018, we opened Saipan Vegas. To the outsider, the industry looks easy and extremely profitable. Unfortunately, that is far from reality. If it were so profitable, why are there only 2 venues remaining? Club C, the e-gaming club in the Kanoa Resort, had to close due to slow play pre-pandemic. They had been losing money for years when they closed. IPI, with over 50% of its floor space dedicated to e-gaming, apparently suffered the same fate. Saipan Vegas and Club 88 are the last 2 remaining e-gaming venues in Saipan. MP Holdings is a contributing member of the community. Every year, the company gives away thousands and thousands of dollars to community charities in need of assistance. The challenges of the past 18 months are not lost on us. We know that the community is hurting. We know that the legislature is looking for help finding solutions to the CNMI's problems. We want to help, but we cannot help if we cannot survive. We want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. With your understanding and cooperation, we are confident we can find a workable accommodation that will help you raise additional funding and allow MP Holdings to remain in business. I have prepared a short presentation that I hope will be useful in showing how e-gaming works, some proprietary information on MP Holdings' profitability, and the direct impact of Saipan Local Law 22-6 on our ability to operate. I'm happy to answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. On behalf of the staff, management, ownership of MP Holdings, I want to thank you for this opportunity to discuss and hopefully resolve the current situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And at this point, due to time constraints, I would like, if we do not have time, for you to submit that presentation to this committee so that we can review it. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for questions. Recognize Mr. Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go through a line of questioning here. Some you may have already answered from your statement, but for the record, sir, can you please state your name?
Bart Jackson.
What companies or companies do you work for again?
I work for MP Holdings, currently work for MP Holdings, and I work for Bridge Capital.
And who are the owners of these companies, and who do you report and answer to, sir?
I report to the principal of the company, Mr. John Baldwin, Mr. Sean Scott, and the owners at the top of the food chain, if you will, are John Baldwin and Sean Scott. I report directly to them.
Thank you. And how many years have you worked in the e-gaming industry?
Since April.
April. Wow. This year?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. Do you by chance know what year Sapan Vegas was open?
2018.
How about Club 88?
Originally, I don't know, but I know that it was purchased in 2016. It was operated by someone else, owned and operated by someone else at that time.
Okay, thank you. Please describe your customer market. What percentage of your customers are tourists, if you may?
Well, relative to Club 88, and Club 88, as you know, is catty corner to the Hafa I can never remember the name of Rio, the Grand Rio, and it's in Garapan. Very little parking. It's as much in fact, more a tourist-oriented clientele than resident clientele. Saipan Vegas is the opposite. There is a hotel, so of course there are tourists, but the percentage of hotels relative to the percentage of residents is relatively small. So if we said, for example, if Club 88 was 80-20 tourists to residents, then Saipan Vegas would be 20-80.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. And so what percentage of your customers are affluent or wealthy who possesses large disposable income?
I have no way of knowing that, sir.
Good. Thank you. Didn't expect you to, but it's a good question.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, if like any business that you run, you would actually be observant or aware of your especially regular customers, right? You would cater to those regulars that actually come in and spend money. So, this question has been asked many times, but do you have any customers that may be addicted to gambling that you may know of, since it's regular customers and we regulate our own businesses, make sure things are going well?
It wouldn't be proper for me to guess that someone is addicted to gambling. I do know that there are customers who frequent the venues regularly.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding of addiction rates, and this is something that we've done a bit of work on over the years, my understanding of gambling addiction rates relative to alcoholism addiction rates, for example, my understanding is that gambling addiction, and it does exist, is half the rate of alcoholism. So, and those are both, my understanding, again, I'm not an expert in this field, below half of 1%.
I just think that this question is significant to,
I don't disagree, sir.
yeah. So it's kind of nice to be able to pay attention to all this. We have issues with gambling in general, right?
And drinking,
And drinking,
and drugs,
and smoking,
and beetle nut.
and marriage,
There are many,
and
yes,
divorce.
and we're all guilty.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Guilty of
One
all of
way or
those
the
things.
other, there's something up there. Okay. So, okay, continuing on. Do the owners of shareholders of Saipan Vegas and Club 88 receive annual dividends or any payouts?
Not directly, sir.
Is that your final answer, sir?
I'm sorry?
Is that your final answer, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have owners and shareholders ever received any dividends or payouts since Saipan Vegas and Club 88 opened?
The company structure
Mhm.
is a LLC structure. An LLC structure is LLCs roll up into one another. And so if you own a number of LLCs, the actual contribution from any one LLC isn't clear. What is clear is the consolidated effort of the LLCs is a contribution, or not, as the case may be in the case of losing money. So MP Holdings in years has been profitable, not all years, mind you, especially last year, the company lost millions. So it's not technically correct to say that they received benefits directly from the company. The company has made money, and that money is contributed to the pool of LLCs, which are then consolidated and provide a return.
Okay.
I'm sorry if that's confusing, but
Yep,
that's
fair
how
enough,
that's how
sir.
the
Fair
LLC
enough.
works.
It's recorded. We can always decipher it later.
Yeah.
Yeah, for clarity. So, what I just asked, the last question, I kind of falls in line with the next one. But on the average, how much does Saipan Vegas pay each year in business gross revenue taxes? If you have that answer.
I don't have that answer.
Fair enough, sir. Thank you. On the average, how much does Club 88 pay each year in business gross revenue taxes?
I don't have that answer.
Okay. Besides business gross revenue taxes, what other taxes do Saipan Vegas and Club 88 also pay?
Well, there are thank you. There are payroll taxes for staffing, and there are e-gaming license fees and e-gaming tax.
Okay. Thank you. In a headline article in the Marana's Variety on August 18, 2021, which read, MP Holdings shuts down Club 88, 30 locals to lose jobs. The introduction or opening paragraph of the article stated, citing the increased cost of doing business imposed by Saipan Local Law 22-6, MP Holdings LLC on Tuesday announced that it is shutting down Club 88, electronic gaming arcade, effective immediately, and expressed deep regret that 30 local employees will be out of work. The Club 88, in fact, shut down effective immediately, as had been stated.
20% shutdown.
Gotcha. Did Club 88 actually ever shut down since then?
20% shutdown, sir.
Okay, so that's 40%?
No, sir.
No,
20%.
20 still. Okay, still 20.
Yes, sir.
And what would you state Club 88 is shutting down immediately and then not following through?
I think we sat down and we worked through the numbers. We realized that we had already prepaid $100,000 in licensing fees earlier in the year. There were 73. Club 88 has physically 73 machines. And those machines need to be licensed on an annual basis. And so in August, after the imposition of Saipan Local Law 22-6, 7 of those machines became due for renewal. which would have required, because the law went into effect immediately, it would have required payment of the machine tax to the CNMI and machine tax for the Saipan 22-6. So the decision was made not to renew. And so those 7 machines have been shut down and are closed for any play. In September, another 8 machines became due for renewal. Those machines were not renewed. And so given the what we call sunk cost of the previous renewals and the $100,000 license fee, the decision was made to close piecemeal. And so the article, as we reviewed the specific details of the profit and loss, if you will, the decision was made not to renew any of the machine licenses.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So I just want to be clear. So as of today, you're only shut down 20%, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's clear. Now, so I don't want to throw this answer or question at you to throw you off or anything other than I'm going to ask this question.
Yes, sir.
So you weren't trying to deceive the public and the employees of Club 88 when you said effective immediately we're going to shut down.
Absolutely not.
Okay? Because you were only 20% shut down. In a headline article in Saipan Tribune on August 16, 2021, which read, Saipan Vegas shuts down its golf course. Saipan Vegas consultant Gus Noble was quoted as saying, MP Holdings profoundly regrets to announce the closure of Saipan Golf Course effective immediately due to the imposition of Saipan Local Law 22-6. In the article, Mr. Jackson, you admitted that the golf course is a loss and that it never turned a profit. That is what, in fact, losing money. That it was, in fact, losing money. By agreement and law, are you required to keep this golf course open?
No, sir.
Okay. Wasn't making any money, was it? So next question. What is the relationship between MP Holdings and Bridge Capital?
There's no business relationship. They have the same shareholders.
Thank you for being clear. What is the relationship between MP Holdings and Mariana Entertainment?
Mariana Entertainment is a subsidiary of MP Holdings.
Okay. What is the relationship between Mariana Entertainment and Bridge Capital?
There's no relationship, sir.
No.
Although, same answer applies. They have the same shareholders.
Okay. And why are the companies set up that way?
Set up which way, sir?
MP Holding, Bridge Capital, MP Holding, Mariana Entertainment, and they're just shareholders, I suppose.
They're different companies. They do different things.
So, but they share stuff, right?
No, sir, they don't share staff.
Stuff. Money.
Oh, stuff. I'm sorry. Yes, stuff. Well,
Yeah.
no, they share shareholders.
Shareholders.
Yes, sir.
That's the word.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
But yet they're a little different from each other. Okay.
They're completely separate from one another. Yes, sir.
All right. So what is your relationship with Bridge Capital?
I'm an employee of Bridge Capital.
Okay. Who is John Baldwin and what is his role?
John Baldwin is the principal of the company. He's the shareholder, one of the shareholders.
Thank you. Who is Sean Scott and what is his role?
Same. I would give you the same answer.
Okay. Who is Jody Jardol?
He's an employee of Bridge Capital.
And what is his role, sir?
His title is vice president.
Who is Gus Noble and what is his role?
Gus Noble is a consultant to MP Holdings.
Does Mr. Noble also consult for Bridge Capital?
No, sir.
Where do these gentlemen live? Are these folks here on
Oh, I'm sorry. Where are they?
Yeah.
Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Scott are currently in Thailand. They are residents of the CNMI, but they are currently in Thailand. Gus Noble is in Saipan,
Okay.
as is Jody.
Okay. And who is Alfred Yee or you?
I don't know.
No.
Oh, he might have been the previous owner of 88.
Okay.
That's before my time. I'm not. I've heard the name, but I don't know the gentleman.
And do you know Victoria Scott?
Yes.
Okay. Does she have
I
a
think-
role? Does she still have a role in the company?
No, sir.
Okay. What is her relationship with Sean Scott? This is not being personal. So,
It's his mom.
okay. See? Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. At this point, I'd like to recognize Vice Chair Tina Sablan.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presence here. I have a few follow-up questions on Mr. Representative Camacho's earlier inquiries. You said you don't have the numbers for business gross revenue taxes or taxes generally for Saipan Vegas or Club 88. Who does have those numbers?
They're available at the office.
Who keeps them?
The accounting staff?
Is there any one person who is
No.
responsible
No.
for maintaining the financial records of
No.
the businesses?
Well, I mean, there's an accounting department that's responsible. At the end of the day, John Baldwin signs the tax returns.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So ultimately, he's responsible.
So who is like the chief accountant?
There's a chief financial officer for Bridge,
Okay.
but there isn't such a, the highest ranking accounting person for MP Holdings is Angie Punzalan.
Okay. And does the chief financial officer for Bridge oversee finances for MP Holdings and Mariana Entertainment?
Yes,
Okay. So there is some sharing of staff then between Bridge Capital and MP Holdings and Mariana Entertainment.
on the administrative side, maybe. Yeah,
Maybe or yes?
it's not a clear line of reporting.
Uh-huh.
So if you wanted to call it a dotted line, I would be okay with that.
Okay, so same shareholders, some shared staff. You yourself work for both MP Holdings and Bridge Capital, correct?
Yes, I'm on the payroll of both
Okay.
separately.
Okay. So there is some sharing of resources then among the companies. And are you aware that Bridge Capital holds a qualifying certificate?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware of the terms and conditions of that qualifying certificate?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware that CNMI law prohibits the holder of a qualifying certificate on Saipan from having an interest or license in gaming? on
Yes,
Saipan?
absolutely.
Is Bridge Capital or any of its principals in violation of that QC?
No, ma'am.
And why not?
Bridge Capital is the QC holder. Bridge Capital has nothing to do with MP Holdings.
Have there been any commingling of funds between Bridge Capital?
Not that I'm aware.
How are funds not commingled or shared in any way if you share staff, records?
There's no commingling of funds. Accounts are separate, books are separate, everything is separate.
Uh-huh.
Whether or not you might have a common pair of eyes reviewing financials certainly is no indication that there's any kind of overlap relative to this issue.
Okay. I'd like to just remind you, sir, respectfully, that you are under oath.
Absolutely.
Has
Thank
the
you.
Bridge Capital QC been used in any way to offset taxes or fees owed by the gaming clubs?
No.
Can you provide this committee with a list of all the LLCs associated with Bridge Capital or its principals?
An official request?
Yes.
I mean, if the law requests it, the law can get it.
I am asking if you are able to provide this committee with a list of the LLCs.
As an,
They can give us a list of items they want, like GRT,
Mhm.
so we can comply with, we can try and comply.
if you gave me a list of specifically what you're looking for, then I'd do my best to comply.
Okay, the specific request is a list of all the LLCs associated with Bridge Capital or its principals, John Baldwin or Sean Scott.
We'll check and try to comply.
Thank you. And so besides yourself and the shareholders, the principals that you mentioned, who are the same between Bridge Capital and MP Holdings, are there other staff that are shared between these companies?
No.
Who is Irene Hole? What is her role in the companies?
She's an assistant to Mr. Sean Scott.
Does she work for MP Holdings?
I'm not aware that she does.
Does she work for Mariana Entertainment?
I'm not aware that she does.
Does she work for Bridge Capital?
I'm not sure. I know that she reports to Sean Scott. I'm not sure specifically what her line of reporting is.
Why is
And which organization pays her salary.
do you interact with her at all?
Sometimes, yes.
Why is she lobbying the Saipan delegation and members of this legislature to amend Saipan Local Law 22.6?
I can't speak for her, ma'am.
And you don't know if she's actually an employee of Bridge Capital,
I don't.
but she is contacting and communicating with members from a Bridge Capital email address. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that, but if you tell me it's so, yes. Okay.
And doing so on behalf of MP Holdings, advocating for legislation for MP Holdings. You were not aware that she was doing that?
I was not.
Do you know if she's a registered lobbyist?
I do not. I am.
Do you know if she's a registered lobbyist for MP Holdings?
I do not.
Do you know if Bridge Capital and MP Holdings share the same mailing address?
I do not.
They do. Do you know if they share the same phone number?
I guess they do.
They do. Do the owners of MP Holdings and Mariana Entertainment pay personal income tax?
Yes.
Do they pay corporate income tax?
It's an LLC, so everything rolls up into their personal returns.
And it is your testimony that there is no offsetting of any taxes for the owners of MP Holdings and Mariana Entertainment or the principals, no offsetting of any taxes from the Bridge Capital QC.
That's correct. That's my testimony. There's no offsetting between Bridge Capital and other businesses which don't comply with the QC.
I have just a couple more questions, Mr. Chairman, on the financial records that have been submitted to the court in the civil action that MP Holdings and Mariana Entertainment have filed. If I may proceed. Mr. Jackson, according to the court filings in your company's lawsuit against the government, there were discrepancies that were identified between the records that you have given the court and the financial records that the Division of Revenue and Taxation has on file. Could you explain those discrepancies?
Okay. In my testimony to the court yesterday, I explained to the court that the financials were reporting on different issues, that the financials that the government were using were financials which had been submitted from the property level for the purposes of a license renewal, and that the other returns were an overall MP Holdings return. So, for example, as I think this is a useful explanation. In a company like Caesar's World has casinos all over the world. If they had a casino in Mississippi and they were renewing a license in Mississippi, they would submit certain financials which relate to the specifics of that venue. If they would not be reporting on the parent company financials, and they wouldn't include potentially things like real estate or loans or some levels of depreciation.
I see.
So-
Would you be willing to provide this committee with all of those financial records to help us better understand and reconcile those discrepancies?
We would be willing to share some financials in private.
Who is the company that loaned money to the e-gaming clubs?
I'm not sure of the specific entity.
You don't know the name?
No, ma'am,
Do you know the principals of that company?
I don't.
How could you, as the general manager of these e-gaming clubs, not know who's lending money to your companies?
The loans in question were from years ago. And as I previously responded, I've been with MP Holdings since April. I've not been involved in any specific loans or fundings.
Could you provide this committee with the name of the company that loaned money to these clubs and who the principals are after this hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And do you know the amount of the loan?
I do not.
Do you know how much interest has been paid on this loan?
I do know that within the tax returns that were submitted, there was interest of over $2 million.
Over $2 million. And was the payment of that loan, including interest, used for any tax deductions?
Tax deductions?
Yes.
It's on an LLC. So like all LLCs net out certain revenues and expenses.
So yes.
If that's what you mean, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I yield at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair. I understand you have another meeting, so we'll carry on. Mr. Jackson, I'm sorry. At this point, maybe we continue, or do you need a short?
No, I'm okay.
You're good.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Sure.
you. Thank you for your endurance. And I apologize
Sure.
for the heat to you
No
and
problem.
everyone in attendance.
Thank you.
I just have a few questions, if I may. In the complaints that were filed, I believe part of the complaints dealt with the actual time frame that had passed with regard to Saipan Local Law 22-6. We were told many times that it had been rushed before it was signed by Governor Ralph Torres. Aside from the court documents that we've seen, we've also had discussions about this. Are you aware of the time frame that had passed from the pre-filing to the day it was signed into law?
I'm not sure what the question is, sir.
The question is, are you aware of the actual time frame that had passed from the pre-filing of this bill to when it became law and when it was signed into law by the governor?
I'm familiar with the reported dates. Yes, sir.
Thank you. And that was one of the things that we had looked at, that there was complaints that the mayor was not informed of this bill and that he did not submit comments. Just for the record, we do know from our clerk, who signed an affidavit and submitted it to the court, that she had sent to the mayor the the bill and the agenda, and it was sent from April 20, and it was sent by her to the mayor, and it was received by the office of the mayor at the time. The agenda attached included House Bill Local 2022-8. And then it was also sent on May 25. And that was for a May 28 session. And then it was sent on June 11 for a June 16 session. There was a great deal of time that had passed. I just wanted to state that for the record. Moving forward, have any of the clubs, Saipan Vegas or Club 88, ever been audited?
Yes, I believe so, but that's before my time. Audited in that, provided audited financials. Yes, I believe so.
Okay. To what extent, if any, does Revenue Tax inspect receipts and collections?
We submit monthly reports. We submit license renewals. We submit overall venue renewals to Department of Finance.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
No, sir.
All right. How can we trust the truthfulness and accuracy of the records you have filed and the claims you have made regarding your ability to pay license fees if your records are not in fact matching the finances records?
As I explained to the vice chair's question, there's a different reporting. What the numbers that the Department of Finance attorney was representing were not the financials that of the entirety of MP Holdings. The financials that were presented to the court are accurate.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, who calibrates the e-gaming machines in Saipan Vegas and Club 88?
They're done by our staff. That was one of the slides I was hoping to show.
Okay. And the with regard to Revenue Tax, how do they know that these machines are in fact functioning properly and accurately? Is anybody trained in Revenue Tax?
They review them. Revenue Tax actively reviews them.
And so Revenue Tax, do they inspect the machines?
Yes.
Okay, so they're knowledgeable
Yes.
of these machines?
Yes.
And they're trained for that?
Yes.
Okay, and what do these inspections entail, if I may ask?
I haven't seen one.
Okay.
I'm guessing, from a system standpoint, they review the logs and they look at whatever information is printed out from the machines. Again, we're submitting data for every machine every month. And so that's the process.
Does Saipan Vegas and Club 88 operate on essentially an honor system with their collections from the e-gaming machines? I mean, do you cash out? Does it cash out of the machines and then report the earnings, or is someone from Revenue Tax or Commerce actually on hand to verify the amounts collected on a regular basis?
Well, they do review the performance of the machines, but the machines effectively report every day internally. And then we report every month. Every machine every month is reported to Department of Finance.
Okay. And as you had mentioned earlier, you were willing to disclose certain financial records in a private meeting with our committee. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would be willing to move to executive committee to share those records. Is that correct?
Not today, sir.
Okay. Perhaps in a future date,
Absolutely.
if that would be okay with you, when we have a couple of our members in attendance.
Yes, sir.
And joining us. I have a few other questions, but before I continue, I'd like to ask my colleagues if they have other questions. Colleagues, are you okay? All right. If I may continue. Um, so overall, uh, who's responsible? Whose main responsibility is it for the financial records? You have an accountant.
Yes.
That does that.
Yes,
Okay, and that is through MP Holdings.
yes,
And is that also through Mariana Entertainment?
yes.
Okay.
It's for, Mariana Entertainment is a subsidiary of MP Holdings.
Okay, so
So
MP
effectively, yeah, effectively, you can look at it as MP Holdings, which includes Mariana Entertainment.
Okay. Okay, and this person would this person be available to meet with us with our financial analysts at a future date in private?
Quite possibly.
Okay. All right.
But again, so the MP Holdings, the previously submitted financials, as I mentioned, really orient just towards the operations. So the operational financials and operating results of the entities, of the venues, of Saipan Vegas by itself, of Club 88 by itself, doesn't include, and that individual doesn't do the consolidated, which would include the higher up loans, other depreciation, other leases, which don't specifically impact one property's operations. So those flow up to someone senior who does more of a group consolidated.
Thank you. And Mr. Jackson, before I continue, I do want to thank you for coming in and answering our questions thoroughly, and we do have a few other questions that do remain. I do believe that it is unfortunate how everything came to be. The fact that there was a lawsuit, and also we also had to see an ethics complaint against one of our colleagues, which was a bit surprising. Um, you have lived here for 31 years. I do know you are, and I appreciate your time here in the Marianas. Um, but at this point, I'd like to request that we take a 5-minute recess, if that's okay, for quick bathroom breaks or anything else.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that acceptable?
Yes, sir.
5-minute recess, please. Thank you. Members, are we ready? Okay. All right, let us proceed. Mr. Jackson, again, I thank you for your time. I want to, I would like to take you up on your offer to meet soon, hopefully soon, to discuss the financials in private through a formal meeting and through other discussions that we may have. I do apologize with the time frame that we have. The biggest number one priority right now for our body, both the House and the Senate, is to pass our budget. We obviously want to ensure that we avoid a government shutdown. We have a conference committee scheduled, and one of our members had to be excused to prepare for that. And there are others who have to also prepare for this very important meeting. Nonetheless, this meeting is important. Discussing these matters is important, not just to this body, but also to everyone involved in our community. I want to thank you for being so forthcoming, and it's refreshing to have people that do that. So I thank you for that. So if we may, we can be in contact
Yes,
to find out when is the next date that we can
Yes, sir.
meet. And hopefully we'll have a full body to attend at that point, and the budget will have passed, and we can convene then. If you don't mind, if you could submit that presentation so we could review it, or if you like, you could hold it for our next meeting. That I'll
Great.
leave that up to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And before we close, I do want to say that we are not the ogres that some people think we are. We're not here in bad faith. We're not here to try to shut you down or run you out of town. There was an opportunity to look at a revenue generating bill, and I can assure you that we did not have sinister thoughts behind it. None of us, as far as I know, had. So we move forward through discussion and dialogue, and we can do it amicably, without without any anger or animosity. I hope we can continue forward in that direction.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'd like to
Please.
thank you for this opportunity to meet. We believe in constructive conversations, constructive discussion. As I told you, I've been here 31 years. We all know the kind of challenges that the CNMI is having now as a result of the pandemic, and we want to be part of the solution. We want to work with you to help make things better. We understand your challenges, and I think that there is an accommodation where we can be helpful. And I apologize for any previous misunderstanding that we've had. These things happen in the heat of the moment. And so really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all, and look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson, and for everyone in attendance. Again, we look forward to our next meeting, and again, hopefully it will be soon. At this point, you are excused. And again, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, members, if we may, because we do have a very, we have to end soon so that the conference committee can prepare. Moving on to miscellaneous. Is there anything under miscellaneous? Nothing? Okay, nothing under miscellaneous. Any announcements? No announcements. Okay. At this point, I'd like a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I have a second. This meeting is called to end. I'm sorry. All in favor? All of the ayes have it. Do we vote on? See, that's how hot it is in here. You guys have no idea. This meeting is hereby adjourned at 11:39 a.m. Thank you.